Hello everybody, I'm your host Wheel Trouble. With this episode, I'd like to address the concepts that make motorcycling an important part of a healthy lifestyle. We're all overly familiar with people droning on about how dangerous this sport is, and this episode should give you some ammo to fire back with at a moment's notice. Before I pull the trigger with any more firearm puns, I'd better get you to target the like button, subscribe, and share this channel with your friends. And of course, you can support me on Patreon. That link is in the description below. Now that I've likely triggered YouTube's personal red flag system, I'd like to start off with the completely mental side of riding. If somebody isn't motivated to exercise, they'll avoid it. Riding is surprisingly fun, and adrenaline is addicting. Much of what I'm going to talk about today is derivative of the work done by UCLA in their 2019 study funded by Harley-Davidson and led by Dr. Don Vaughn. Wow, that was hard to get out. According to their research, riding on a 22-minute route on a familiar motorcycle led to decreased stress biomarkers by a whopping 28%. My family can vouch for this, as I'm a much more laid-back person on days when I can go out for a ride. We've also discussed ride therapy and this topic in a previous video. Motorcycling also increases alertness in a manner similar to a cup of coffee. Couple your ride with your coffee and you'll be wired for sound, but in a good way, since you're less stressed. This is a buildup of many factors ranging from adrenal levels to the physical activity levels that we'll discuss later on in this video. For the sake of being specific, heart rates were up 11% and adrenal levels were up 27%. That's what one expects from light exercise. And finally, sensory focus was increased as a result of riding, similar to the gap seen between practitioners of meditation and the non-Zen crowd. That leads us quite well into the physical health benefits of being a biker. I'd like to point out that there is a degree of results may vary in what I'm going to discuss throughout the remainder of this video. Different motorcycles and riding conditions will require different muscle groups to be active. For sake of argument, let's just call crashing an added opportunity for resistance training and be done with it. Many fitness buffs will go on for days about how core strength is vital for the strength of the rest of the body. If there's one thing motorcycling is good for, it's core strength. From the cruiser rider to the trials rider, there's no escaping this one. For the cruiser rider, or the touring rider, the abdominals get to push against the highway speed winds as they zip along the interstate. Windscreens will of course diminish this benefit. Sport bike riders, hunched over the gas tank, will work their lower back as their back flexes to act as a shock of sorts. Dirt bikers, well, have you ridden a dirt bike? It's hell, but in a good way. There's all the speed of the street riders with the upright riding style, and then there's the constant wiggling as you try to wind your way from one obstacle to the next. Balance while bouncing is a constant core workout. As far as trials go, take what I said about the dirt bike and just crank it to 11. The riding that trials guys do is so intense, and I'm dumbfounded by their skill set. Just the balance and finesse that they have would take a lifetime for us mere mortals to develop. Next on the list is neck strength. After listening to me go off about off-road riding, you're sure to think that they must have some rather strong necks to keep from looking like a bobblehead, and you'd be right. In addition to the weight of the helmet, they're also constantly being buffeted by the changes in the terrain. But the neck work isn't exclusive to them. A sport bike rider will be lifting their head constantly, since their body is hunched over. I will personally attest to not missing this facet of sport bike riding in the least. Just because I got rid of my CBR, though, didn't leave me exempt. On the highway, I still get buffeted by wind, and it doesn't just come from going forward either. The worst of it comes when I'm trapped behind a semi-truck. The slipstream crashing down around you as you mentally weigh the pros and cons of tailgating will toss your head around rather harshly. My last vacation actually left me with sort of a rug burn as my helmet danced around on my head. If you want another reason to wear a helmet, this is it. Yes, it increases the weight, but a full-face helmet sans visor is much more aerodynamic than your skull is. Stops bugs and debris better too. Also, all motorcycle riders will turn their head the direction they want to go. The more you turn, the more you work out your neck. The legs will also get their fair share. Cruiser riders can sort of sit this one out. Matter of fact, sitting at a stop sign is when they will likely receive the lion's share of their workout. The more upright the riding position, the better workout you'll receive. If your bike has no backrest, you're likely going to be on the world's fastest thigh master. Dual sport touring riders take the cake with this one. Sport bike riders are hardly exempt either. Sport bike riders who get their grins by eating up chicken strips will be constantly shifting in the saddle, using their thigh muscles to drag themselves across the bike. Just remember, my speed junkie friends, one cheek is enough. Dragging a knee doesn't look as cool when you're stretching for it. If you're out on the dragon, that means you're up and down in that saddle constantly. For the dual sport and dirt bike riders, we'll just be blunt. We're standing up. If we're jumping, we're absorbing whatever the shocks don't. We may sit down in corners, but then we're right back up again. All the while squeezing the tank with our knees for dear life as our hands are busy with the task of throttle, brake, and clutch management. Then there are the trials riders. You know what? Just pull up a trials video after watching this if you don't know what I'm talking about. Again, these guys are not human. All these moving parts add up to one thing that the research was able to back up. Riding a motorcycle burns calories. The act of riding is equivalent to a light workout on average. Dirt bikers will be getting more of a workout, and as a result, you'll notice dirt bikers tend to be a little bit more lean. Sport bikers put a lot of work in too, but they are still beat by their off-road counterparts. Adventure riders tend to be in the middle, many sporting dad bods depending on how they define adventure. Cruiser riders may look like Wario. I don't see too many that don't have the wider profile. These are all hasty generalizations, but when I think of the different types of riders, the body stereotype just goes along with it. Does anybody really think of a thin Harley rider? Anyone? Really? Anyone? Yeah, see, that's kind of my point. Finally, research shows that riding increases insulin sensitivity, which equates to increased weight loss for up to 8 hours after riding. When you think about the fact that a high-end Star Trek treadmill can run you $10,000, wouldn't you rather invest that money into a workout that allows you to at least change the scenery? That's my point. I hope you found this information rather insightful. Now you know that riding isn't quite the guilty pleasure that people make it out to be, and rewarding in spite of the dangers. As always, you can support me on Patreon. That's patreon.com/wheeltrouble. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video with all your friends. Wheel Trouble out.